No, I was talking about that. I thought maybe you were talking about the Who Killed WCW thing. Because what I love about the Who Killed WCW thing so far is everybody blames everybody, and then Bret Hart comes in and goes, "This whole fucking place was stupid."
Yeah.
And just
They all did it.
like a bunch of
They all
stupid
did it.
motherfuckers. Yeah.
Yeah, I've been watching it, but yeah. Brett's like, it was a collection of fucking morons. Every single one of it.
I love it.
I love what he was talking about. I don't know exactly what angle it was, but they said they sent him out to do a run-in or something, and he was saying how he had no idea why he was going out there.
Yeah, why the hell am I even?
And while he was saying it, they were showing him walking down the aisle, and I would love to just know what was going through his mind. Like, what the fuck?
It was a promo. Like they set him out to interrupt a promo, and he's like, "What am I supposed to be talking about?" And they were like, "I don't know. Just go out there and talk about it."
But the look on his face when he was walking down the aisle was the best. He was just like, "What?" He's got about another 40, 60 feet before he has to get out there and say something.
And he talks about how they're paying me $3 million a year. They fly me to Seattle, don't use me. They fly me to Atlanta, don't use me. They fly me. It's like they fucking forgot I was even there. A fucking clusterfuck.
I mean, don't get me wrong. Bret's not like, he's not always the biggest baby face in all these situations, but he's kind of got a pretty good argument, you know.
Oh, yeah. Anything involving Bret Hart and WCW, Bret Hart is right.
Well, I mean,
as far as WCW goes, there's other places where I'll, he's a little full of himself or whatever. But when it comes to anything to do with his run with WCW, he is absolutely right with the whole thing.
Yeah, let's just say if you want to make some money, put Eric Bischoff or anybody who's in charge of WCW in a Dunkin' booth at a carnival. Because there's going to be a long line behind Bret Hart.
I mean, is Bret coming to WCW after getting screwed by Vince? One of the biggest stories in wrestling history. Him coming to WCW and them totally fucking it up. Isn't that one of the biggest fuck ups in the history of the business? Like, how do you have that momentum and fuck that up?
Well, you saw how it happened.
I guess they did. Yeah, I shouldn't say how, do you? They showed me how, but it's just it befuddles the mind that they were able to fuck that shit up.
Well, I mean, in a way, Bret's 100% right, but in another way, Bret also should have said, "Well, listen to me. I mean, you know what I mean? How about this? Or why can't we do this? Or we would have done this. My dad would have, you know what I mean? Hey."
And the answer he probably would have got was, "That don't work for me, brother."
Yeah, that's all it is.
Oh, that's the other thing about the Who Killed WCW thing. Dwayne Johnson is becoming a fucking big a fishtail guy as Hulk Hogan. He's like Hulk Hogan with his lion shit. I was watching WCW and I went to the back and I said, why can't we be more like this? He wasn't even there yet when the NWO started. He didn't debut until November of '96.
I mean, he was there, but he was in USWA.
He didn't have Vince McMahon's ear or anything.
Oh, I know.
Oh, he was in no position to make any call like that.
Oh yeah, but the way he makes it sound, he was part of the reason that they made the shift.
He might have said, "This is cool shit. We should be doing something like this," but he wasn't going around telling people that. You know what I mean?
Or if he was telling
people that mattered
and the Water Boys.
Yeah,
he wasn't telling anybody that booked anything.
And Jamie Dundee,
Frank Morrell,
Flex Cabana, yeah.
Dude, I just remember being in Memphis when he started, man. I mean, I was there the day that he came in, and I just remember just the words coming out of Dundee's mouth. He'll never draw a dime in his business. Because he didn't want to take a bump like then.
Mm-hmm.
He didn't want to do anything, and I was just sitting there with Dundee, just shaking my head like, I mean, if this guy has no miles at all, you know what I mean? Nothing to stand on. How can he at all present a case to be like, oh, I don't want to take body slams. I don't want to take any bumps. What? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
He's a clown. But I don't know where you're going to get an hour out of this fucking piece of garbage, because this was like a week ago I watched it.
That's why we're talking about this, because this is all part of the show. Because
I also like the fact that, real quick, sorry.
No, that's all right.
Like Eric Bischoff's trying to like trail things back with people and be like, oh no, I like he was a really good guy and I probably didn't treat him right and we're all friends now and everything. And then he's like trying to be like, oh yeah, Brett, he's a really good guy and all that, and he's like put him over on his podcast and everything, and then Brett's on this show be like, Eric Bischoff's a fucking moron.
Hey, I guess Bischoff can say all that shit from whatever 1,500 feet above, whatever altitude out there in Wyoming, where he has no chance of running into Bret Hart. No chance of Bret Hart going out there to confront Eric Bischoff. Although at this point, I don't think Bret Hart's a threat to beating anybody up, honestly. But
he doesn't look as much like his dad as Smith did, but he's starting to look like his dad with long hair.
I just remember back in the days when people used to talk about that Bret was probably, if not the baddest, in the top 2 of the baddest in the locker room. He was always in the argument, and this was this went back to it before any of the injuries in WCW and stuff. I still would want to mess with Bret back in then. Of course Hogan or anybody, them guys are going to babyface him like to his face. It's easier to beg for forgiveness than ask for permission, I guess.
Yep. Yeah.
But I got some good news recently though. There's somebody that I don't even know. I have no idea how they found me. Nothing whatsoever information about him at all. Somebody just reached out to me off of Facebook, and they found an old picture of me that I took from Fuckface's house back when I lived there. That they said they deposited $500 into my bank account because this person wants to make a painting of this picture of me. How they found me, and I'm just wondering how this money. I got it. I got the money. But I mean, I had to jump through a lot of hoops to get it and everything, and I had to change like passwords, and because I had to give them my banking information to get it. But I'm thinking, like, where'd you find me at? That you're gonna make am I Eddie Gilbert now? That I'm gonna start working shows here. I'm gonna have this portrait that I'm gonna bring out and do an angle with.
The Mona Chetta.
Yeah, I don't have any more information other than the fact that, unless they're just laundering money through me. What? I pulled that fucking money out and changed my password as fast as they sent it to me. As soon as I gave him my routing number and all that information, and then I clicked on my bank after the third party person, because the person that's doing the painting was the one that sent me, this guy's going to be getting in touch with you. I gave him my information. Then I texted them back and said, okay, got it. And then I texted the person that's doing the painting. I told them I got it, and as soon as I did all that, I just changed everything. I changed my passwords, and then I went to the bank. I pulled all that money right out. So, a matter of fact, I took out more money than I had in it, and then I showed them that I'm negative $37 in the bank, just so if they tried to screw me. But I got $500 out of this deal.
I guess one more thing that we can discuss here before we get into the ECW episode is, for those of you following along on the WNR podcast Facebook page, if you're not a member, join. I currently have a tournament poll going on right now of the greatest managers. The Ultimate Manager tournament is going on, and it made me wonder to ask you guys, because I don't know if we've ever actually talked about it on the show or not. I don't think we have, or I wouldn't think to answer the question. You have your gimmies, like your Heenan, your Cornettes, etc. But besides those guys that are just gimmies, who are give me a few, like maybe 2 or 3 people that you think are each of you think are your favorite managers of all time.
I mean, like, can we think outside the box in terms of, does it have to be some?
No, I mean, who, it's somebody that entertains, like, obviously
Richard Lee.
If I'm talking, obviously from a couple of weeks ago, everybody can kind of pick up on the fact that one of mine is Gary Hart. I just love to listen to Gary Hart talk about his blacks and his Latins and his fucking. I love me some Gary Hart, man. I can't help it. I think the dude was fucking great, but
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I like Richard Lee in Memphis when he managed the Moondogs. Man, I always found that to be entertaining because he could sit there and just and he could pretend like that he's not watching the jobbers get the shit beat out of them, by the Moondogs, and he can make it sound like it's just nothing. While the Moondogs are using can openers to these jobbers' heads and shit like that, he's just out there talking about how good his dogs look. Like they're killing these guys. But we had, I mean, did you have George Cannon in there? But
yeah, he was in there. He lost in the first round. I don't remember who to, but
yeah, that's probably because of. I mean, I could see why he lost. That's probably like lack of knowledge.
I was going to say a lot of the people voting probably didn't even know who the fuck he was.
Yeah, Eddie Creechman, but we all know. I mean, Eddie Creechman was in there. I saw. But I mean, everybody's just going to go to the top, the top 5, the Albanos, the Blassies, the Wizards, the Heenans, the Cornettes, I guess, and Gary Hart is black.
Poor George Cannon lost to Mr. Fuji in the first round. Oh, I saw Mr. Cannon. Oh.
Well, see, there you go. That's people that just don't know. I mean, there's the Saul Weingrove, some guys. Yeah, there's just been so many. There's so many guys that you couldn't even include in that tournament because people didn't know who they were.
Yeah, but guilty pleasure of just like guys everybody knows or whatever. I always enjoyed Slick. Like I thought his character was cool and he was an animated guy, and I enjoyed him.
Dr. Style.
Like, yeah.
Of course, Slick was great. Jive So Bro. Come on.
One of the greatest themes ever.
Oh,
it's my favorite. It's my favorite, like WWF music video. I love that fucking video.
That part where he's just like doing the shit in the camera while the music's playing because there's no singing. It's during like the fucking guitar solo or whatever.
Yeah, his breakdown or whatever. It's good shit.
Yeah, it's too bad that the people that were on the page or in the group didn't really know about so many more of the other unestablished managers from back in the day.
And it was a I don't want to say it, like not a dark time of WCW, but like a transitional time of WCW. But I always liked Robert Parker when he was in WCW with the Stud Stable. Like I like that.
Of course.
Shit. Like, yeah.
But he could do both though. That's what.
Yeah. And I was thinking about. I always like
what Mick said about him too in his book. He was like, when Robert Fuller got to WCW and the WWF, they just never let him be Robert Fuller. Like, I mean, I still like Colonel Parker, but it's like, why not just let him be Robert Fuller? It's so much more entertaining than giving him a fucking like plantation gimmick and a fucking Tennessee Lee gimmick. Just let him be Robert Parker.
I mean, he never not made money.
Yeah.
Anywhere he worked, anywhere he ran, any of his territories, they may not have lasted forever, but that wasn't his fault. Because I'm sure he left before things got worse. But yeah, he always made money. I can't think of off the top of my head, besides pretty much him and Southeastern, who were the other managers that were down there. Because I know he was a big manager here in Knoxville, because he owned the territory. But a lot of that stuff nobody saw either. USA Championship.
Yeah.
That's where I used to ride my bike to all the time when I lived down here back in like '87.
And I mean, I guess you wouldn't say because she was part of the act. Miss Linda wouldn't count for that territory because she's just going to go, you know. She's just gonna go wherever Adrian Street goes. So it's not like she was a quote unquote manager of the territory.
Oh yeah, absolutely. She didn't do anything. I mean, that's not saying anything bad about her. That wasn't her role to do anything, you know.
Right.
I mean, what are you gonna are you gonna include? Are you going to include Brenda Britton then? You know what I mean? That's all she did was primp Rip Rogers' hair. Is she a manager?
It'd kind of be like saying like, and I'm not disrespecting her or anything, because at a time she was probably more popular than any other wrestlers on the roster. But it'd be like saying like Miss Elizabeth was one of the greatest managers of all time. It's like, no, she wasn't. She was one of the greatest like characters, but I wouldn't consider her like one of the greatest managers. She's part of the package, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I'll tell you what though, if she was my manager back when she was around and they had like FaceTime like we talk like we're doing now, back then when she was making reservations for any of her guys, she could probably get whatever the hell she wanted. You know what I mean? It wouldn't take a whole lot of finagling just for her to just do her little, little looks and maybe show a little bit of leg. Oh yeah, you get the whole top floor. You only need 2 rooms? Fuck that. We'll close the whole entire block down for you.
Dig it, brother. Yeah.
Shit, yeah. I mean, where they ran at here was not too far from here. And my mom knew like her parents. Like my mom tells me all the time, like she amazes me of how many people that she knows from around this area. And a lot of them lived here up until recently because he probably died. But most of them just retired around here because there's so many like mountains, like, and places that you can just hide out at and not be seen forever. Which is cool about this place.
A guy that in manager lore as time has gone on has fallen off and people don't talk about him that I really enjoy too is fucking Downtown Bruno.
Oh, Bruno.
Man, whether Bruno or whether Harvey Whippleman or whatever the fuck character he was playing, that guy was fucking awesome. And just I don't know. He doesn't as time has gone on, as history is going on, he's kind of getting forgotten, And Downtown Bruno is fucking great, man. I loved him. He was so good.
Well, that's one of the good things about Dark Side of the Ring. Because they do include Bruno in some of that stuff. And Bruno is like a historian. He is very knowledgeable.
And honestly, sorry.
I used to run into him like all the time around here and in Memphis when he wasn't even working for anybody and he was living in a camper. But yeah, he's a smart dude, man.
And honestly, I think he might be a guy that you see might start getting talked about a little bit more. Might even get a Hall of Fame nod because of The Rock.
Yeah,
eventually. Rock really likes him, and Rock, and like he was a guy that he let Rock sleep on his couch, and he was like a guy that he knew right at the start, and he's always just been cool with him,
Didn't Bruno give him his car?
Yeah.
Bruno was a kid of the business here, especially in Memphis, because he lived maybe not even 20 minutes outside of Memphis, and he lived in a little tiny camper, like a small camper, the kind you hook up to your car kind of camper, like not like a big trailer kind of thing. It was small, and he had his little Scottish little imported wife that he had living there too.
One of the funniest visuals in wrestling history, I don't know, every time I see it, it makes me laugh, is when they have like the promos with fucking Harvey Whippleman and Giant Gonzalez. Just how much smaller he was than like they do the big pan out with the camera, just to show you how like this dude is like Harvey Whippleman's like up to his butthole or whatever, and I don't know, it's fucking hilarious.
I wonder if they did a whole Andre thing with him too, whether they made Gonzalez even stand on a phone book as well, just to make the visual even crazy.
Yeah, it's fucking whenever it happens, because they actually, again, I'm never gonna say Giant Gonzalez was a great wrestler ever, but WWF did everything they could. Like they do the thing when he did the standing promos with Harvey, where they do like where the camera had to pan back and they'd show you that he was even taller than the curtain and you could see the fucking lights and stuff behind him.
Yeah, the piping.
And yeah, so I mean they did everything they could to try to get that big son of a bitch over, and nothing worked because he stunk. But that Harvey Whippleman next to him always cracks me up every time I see it.
Don't forget the size difference between him and Bertha Faye.
I liked him with Big Bully Busick too.
Yep, and I like Big Bully Busick.
Yeah, he was solid.
I don't care what anybody says. Big Bully, but I mean, 13-year-old me, I thought Big Bully Busick was fucking cool. I liked him in Global. I liked him in the little short run he had in the WWF.
Well,
different.
I saw him in North Georgia before any of that. When he was just Nick Busick.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, he was still doing the gimmick. He just wasn't,
Big Bully. Yeah,
he just wasn't the name. Yeah.
Some days I want to. Some days I want to shave my beard like that and get a bowler hat.
I think it was a cool gimmick. I think people just didn't get it. They didn't understand what it was.
Who?
Big Bully Busick. I think when he got to the WWF, fans didn't understand the gimmick. They didn't do enough.
Well, he was a midget in the giant world there, honestly, too. He's not a big guy. I don't even think he was 5'8", honestly.
Mm-hmm.
But he was still like, 230, 240 kind of thing. And I know I look different now and now people can't see me now, but I'm up for a role in the new Walking Dead movie. They're doing a bunch of the Walking Deads around here, and I'm down into the last 25, 30 people, and they asked me to not shave or get a haircut. And I was like, oh shit, is that all?
I can do that.
I mean, should I shower?
I can even cut the zombie promo.
Yeah. If they don't want me to shower too, then I'm definitely all in for this. And if they can just incorporate not get out of bed too. We don't want you to do anything. But yeah, more details will come about that. But they're filming like a whole bunch of stuff around here, and I'm down to the last 25, 30 people. So wish me luck on that one.
Good luck.
And all right, get an hour out of this fucking show.
I think we wasted enough time where we can now talk about the ECW show and get pretty much an hour out of the podcast. This is July 16th, 1996 episode of ECW Hardcore TV. We open the episode with Joey recapping last week's show where we had all the tag team insanity. And then we go into the Samoan Gangsta Party versus the Gangstas.
Samoan Gangsta Pajamas.
What is it? Big Daddy Milkers and Sweet Daddy Silky Boom Boom. Is that their name?
Silky Boom Boom. Call back.
I all I want is them pajamas.
They look comfy.
They do, man. Yeah,
that's good. They're comfy because they're gonna be laying down a lot during this match.
I was gonna say it's Cornette would be like, look at those guys farting through silk.
Dude,
it was a real silky boom boom.
I was watching that and just watching the beating that they were taking, and I'm just thinking, does anybody there have any idea how bad of a beating the Gangsters would have gotten if that would have turned into a shoot. They would have gotten demolished just by Sammy.
I actually wrote down in my notes that I thought it was actually kind of crazy how much Samu was really willing to take during this thing.
Yeah,
I didn't expect him to take as much as he did. I mean, I'm not saying he would have like fucking sandbagged him or anything, but I did not expect him to take some of the shit that he took during this whole thing.
Well, I mean, he probably got more than what other people would get from Paul to do it. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. He didn't do it with he didn't stick around probably after the show and wait for a check to be cut.
Yeah, that was a money up front situation.
Yeah. Especially after it was probably laid out. Because I mean, he ended up bleeding, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, it took a while. Because I kept looking for it. I'm like, okay, they should be bleeding by now, or at least, there should be blood by now. And then finally, when I saw he was bleeding, I was just thinking, like, do you think he was debating it? Was he debating whether or not he was going to do it? Because I'm like, they beat the shit out of them for a good couple of minutes. I'm like, he ain't bleeding yet, and he should definitely be. They hit him with a VCR. I mean, he should have been bleeding way earlier than he did. But when I finally saw him bleeding, I was just like, oh, I wonder if he finally said, all right, now it's time to work.
Yeah, it's something I wrote down here also, and this is kind of it's kind of a thread that I get by the end of the show. And like I've said before, a lot of the ECW stuff I've watched maybe once. I haven't watched ECW over and over as much as I've watched some other promotions and things. So sometimes I forget about certain time periods or certain people being in and out of the promotion. If these Samoan Gangsta Party has kind of a cup of coffee in ECW, but the way that the gimmick is and the way that they are presented in this episode of the show and the way they present themselves, I think they could have worked as a long-term thing for ECW. I kind of like this gimmick. And, I don't know. I know we make fun of it because of the names and the pajamas and everything, but, they come off as, obviously, they come off as badasses, and I think they fit the mold.
Well, they fit the mold, but they clearly would have not came in and gotten involved in an immediate program with the Gangsters.
Right.
That should have been a red flag right there. Hey, these guys aren't sticking around. But, if they would have had, I don't know, a month and a half of beating up me and Hack or Axel and Hack or, some mediocre teams or, just something. But no, they came in and they were in and out,
Yeah, they didn't go through Ivan Putski to get to Bruno. They just went to Bruno.
Yeah, no, they did not. So that right there would have knowing now what we didn't know then. But, that should have been back then. People were like, yeah, these guys aren't sticking around.
It's a hold off for them to go to WWF. They just put them there to put them somewhere until they got them there. You know what I mean? Because they were doing
not so much Sammy, because Sammy always had a deal with the WWE.
Well, I'm just saying the gimmick itself, because it wasn't too much longer after this that they the WWF tried to establish that Fatu make a difference character or whatever, and they were going to bring these guys in as that, and it just never got off the ground. I heard part of it had to do with Samu having some personal problems or vices or whatever, but yeah, that's all it was. I think they were just there until they got the Fatu gimmick where they wanted it, which their gimmick sucked.
I mean, they always still had the school. They always still had that outlet. There was always going to be a pipeline between, any of the Samoans, in the WWE. Right. So whether or not Sammy had any problems that I don't know about, I was never a part of any of that nonsense. I just know that I like Sammy. We always got along and that kind of stuff. But yeah, there was always a link there that if they ever wanted Sammy for anything, which how many times he came back multiple times, anyway.
Yeah.
From like 83 even, wasn't it?
Yeah,
84.
he was Wild Samoan 3, or what they called him, Samula, I think, at that point.
Yeah, that was like 84.
And then he'd go do little cups of coffee other places and then go back. Like, they weren't even in the Samoan SWAT team. They weren't even in NWA WCW that long, actually.
No, but they did work in Pensacola for Burt under the WOW banner. I don't remember what years that was, but that was definitely when Sammy went back home, back down to like the Pensacola area, because Rodney was coming in, Yoko was coming in, but yeah, he went down there and he worked for Burt for a while. Burt didn't run that company very long at all, but he made shots down there, and he was definitely on Continental before too. And he didn't stick around there very long either. So he was in and out of everywhere, I guess, around maybe 86 to, I don't know, until the SST. What was that, 89? Somewhere around there?
89.
But that pipeline was already established for Samu, that anytime they needed him, and he could pass a drug test. I'm not, because all I know is the dude smoked a lot of fucking weed. That's all I can tell you. I don't know anything about anything else.
I'm not saying it's true. I just always heard that was one of the reasons why this one didn't pan out, was there was something to do with something with his personal life or whatever. So.
He's a Samoan. They all got personal issues. They're all trying to figure out who their kids are, who their cousins are that aren't their kids.
You gotta smoke weed to figure out this fucking family tree.
Yeah, that tree's all fucked up.
Well, Jim Molyneux stops this match in grand ECW fashion.
Did that get a chant?
I didn't hear one.
Neither did I. So, how do we know that match was stopped?
Well, Joey said Jim Molyneux has stopped this.
Joey says it, right?
Yes.
Okay. But did anybody see anybody call for a bell?
I did not. No, I did not.
I'm just making sure, because I didn't either. So let's just say, for TV's sake, that's the way that finish was.
Yeah, and it's another one of those things where I always, I like to, it's nitpicky, but it's just funny to me that the ECW, like, certain things, you can do certain things, but then in the next match, we're going to make that certain thing be a disqualification, or the referee's going to call it off, but it is what it is. But it was an effective, I guess you'd say, beatdown to put the gangsters over, beating up two big impressive looking guys.
Maybe it was a concession too. Maybe it was like, okay, you can beat the shit out of me, but you're not going to pin me. You know what I mean?
Definitely. I'm sure that was definitely in the cards.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
But then after the match, New Jack cuts a promo on the Eliminators, the Bruise Brothers, and the Samoan Gangsta Party, and he wants to have the first ever four-way dance between these four teams.
That is trouble in the making right there, buddy.
Which is an okay it's an okay promo, but he talks about how he wants to prove they're like the dominant team, but he still wants the Samoan Gangsta Party, and it's like, you just bloodied those guys. Like, why are you including them?
Well, but that ain't fair, because they did jump him. Like, that brawl started in the hallway and shit like that. So that ain't fair, and that ain't fair to not include them. But yeah, I know what you're saying. When New Jack was going corner to corner, and I want this team here, I want this team here, I want the Eliminators here, And meanwhile, poor Axel and Hack are still sitting in the locker room waiting for their name to be called. But yeah, I get it.
But like I said, overall, I thought this segment was effective. It's more of a continuation from last week, where they're showing us the rivalries and the depth of the tag team division right now. And I would dare say this is the best in the 3 plus some years of ECW that we've watched so far. This is the best condition. This is the best shape the tag division has been in so far.
Really?
Oh yeah, this whole entire angle, and that's exactly what it was. It was an angle, was just to build to the 4-way dance. There was not going to be a finish. There was not going to be a match. You know what I mean? It was all just a way that how can we not make anybody look bad that we can get to the 4-way. That's what I think. Well, that's what I mean. That's what happened. So I guess I didn't think. I guess that's what happened.
You put this over like the Suicide Blondes and the Super D's.
Yeah, and Wolfman and Max Thrasher. You got to have them.
I wondered where you were going with that. I'm like, what the fuck is he going to bring up that's better than this? I see. We went in reverse. I got the joke now.
If there would have been if this would have been the Octagon, New Jack would have ran out of corners to hit for tag teams, and he said, "And the Super Destroyer is in this corner."
Super D's
the crowd would have went banana.
Put Lori and Mikey Whipwreck in them Banshee outfits. Let's bring them back out.
The Banshee outfits. And that was brought up in the next match.
Yeah.
The next match is Paul Loria out of nowhere with Damian Kane against Mikey Whipwreck.
Leather Lou Albano and the Dumpster Girl are with Paul Loria.
And tits. Yeah, well,
they're both bigger. They're both bigger than him. She probably carried Loria to the ring.
There wasn't a whole lot to say about this match.
No, and actually the only thing I wrote down other than the finish was, where did this Damian Kane, Mikey Whipwreck shit come from? Like, where I did not see. Have we seen anything having to do? I don't remember seeing anything having to do with these guys having heat.
No, I don't even have Damian Kane's name written down. Put it that way.
Did you hear what Styles called him though?
Huh?
Joey said, because Damian Kane keeps calling himself the Godfather of Extreme.
Right.
Joey Styles was like, "Here's Paul Loria with the grandfather of Extreme, Damian Kane."
I can see that.
That's a better gimmick than his gimmick.
The leather Lou Albano.
The grandfather's like, I tried to take
Paul feet on that line.
I hit grandfather of Extreme. I hit Luthez 14 times in the head with a steel chair.
Yeah, that Whipper Watson. He didn't know what he had coming to him.
I strangled Ed Strangler Lewis.
Yeah, I super destroyed Dick Byers.
I Antonio that Inoki.
Well, I sailored Art Thomas. That doesn't even make sense. I sailored that motherfucker.
Well, let's just say that Damian Kane's probably still there because of spot shows. And that license was still needed, probably. That's probably what happened.
Like I mangled Bippo.
I mangled the Mongol. All right.
What are you doing now?
Took a barbed wire baseball bat to Joe Stecker.
Jesus. So we're
at the Roaring 20s.
Yeah. So this is when the Eliminators run in, right?
Well, Mikey wins the match with Frank and Mikey, beats Paul Loria. And then the Eliminators, yes, they come out and cut the promo on accepting the Gangsta's challenge for the 4-way. They throw Mikey out of the ring.
You call him a jabroni.
Yeah. And excuse me.
I actually like this version of Perry Saturn. I liked every version of Perry Saturn, but I liked him when he was like the menacing, just I don't know how to describe the character, but it's kind of like Rocco when he wasn't being an idiot. You know what I mean? Like, we always talked about how Rocco would be goofy and then he'd get all serious.
Yeah.
Like, that's kind of what Saturn is all the time, and I enjoy this Perry Saturn.
And Saturn's doing this thing in his promos during this show, by the way, where he said he's alluding to himself and then changes his tone to allude to the fact that they're a team.
Oh, is that when he made the comment about when he won the belts?
Yeah, when I won,
Yeah.
when he'd say when I won the belts, when we won the belts.
Where was
Do you
that
think
going?
maybe they were? I think I was gonna say, do you guys think they were maybe thinking about breaking them up and then realizing they were getting over as a team? So why fuck with something that's working?
Or they were thinking about breaking them up, and then isn't it coming up soon where Perry has to be in a fucking cast for a long time? So maybe it kind of fell by the
they were still
wayside
doing
because
shit.
of his
They were
injury.
still doing. He was still working though.
Well, no, but what I'm saying is they couldn't have had a one-on-one program with them. He had to be in a tag team with the leg injury. You know what I'm saying?
That's true. Yeah.
I don't know.
Plus, we don't know.
I'm just speculating.
Well, plus we don't know what the extent of Perry didn't know probably going into that the injury how bad it was going to be. You know,
Right.
I mean, it was probably just what do they call it? Just an out clause.
Mm-hmm.
Just in case. But I was going to ask you guys if you caught that, because I was just wondering, because I don't remember everything about it, but it seemed like something they were definitely going they definitely teased going in a direction somewhere else.
Yeah, I totally picked up on that too, because I thought it was odd, because I was like, I don't think they ever do like a breakup angle with the Eliminators that I remember. So
no, Perry left before they could do anything like that.
Yeah.
Fired. However you want the story to go.
So there's that. This is apparently one of those little things lost to wrestling history, but there you have it. The Eliminators talk some shit about Sabu. Sabu comes out, and now we got Sabu and Mikey Whipwreck versus the Eliminators, but the Eliminators say that it has to be a traditional tag team match.
And that's good.
Which I guess means it had to have been 4 people in it.
I actually wrote
traditional as it got, right?
I actually wrote down that, Aaron, you said the match was good, and I thought the match was good, but I did write down in my notes that Sabu and Saturn did not work very well together.
No, Sabu was off, man.
And I was gonna say I didn't know if it was just this match or just those two, but I just noticed those two were not. They were having a bad night together. The match was good, but they just were when the two of them were in together, they were very off.
Well, again, wasn't the ropes still fucked up? Didn't Joey Styles still make a comment about that during that match?
If he did, I didn't catch it, to be honest with you.
Because there was a couple spots that were definitely not executed accurately. But I wouldn't say they were botches. But I do think that Joey made a comment about the ring is still, the ropes are still loose. Mm-hmm. That's what he said. The ropes were still loose. I was like, all right, well, either he's covering up for Sabu not being on, or there is something wrong, because Sabu can't be in a jalopy of a ring. You know what I mean? and still be Sabu. He's going to be Chabu.
Any other?
It was a good match, though.
Oh yeah. No, like I said, I wasn't dogging the match. I just noticed as I was watching it that when it was Sabu and Saturn in there together, they just, like you said, they seemed about a half a step off. They weren't. The two of them weren't clicking on this evening.
No, there was. I wrote it down as that Sabu was off, but I mean, I don't know what their extent of their history was. I'm sure they probably worked. Probably before, I don't know. Joey Styles may even say this is the first time they even worked together.
Well, having been a worker, your instincts in watching this are probably better than mine. So you might be right. Saturn might not have even played into the equation. It might have just been Sabu, but
I think there was so much going on that Joey Styles tried to cover up the ring being screwed up. Everything had just happened with the Eliminators, and you know what I mean? And then Sabu being off. I think it was just off. And they just tried to make any excuses to why that everything was off, because it was. They didn't mesh very well.
Aaron, any other notes on this matchup here?
Not really. Just like I said, I just thought it was a good, solid match, and I like the idea of Sabu coming out to save Mikey, because the last couple of weeks we've seen Sabu and Mikey wrestle, and Sabu's getting respect for him and all that. So I enjoyed that.
Well, it was cool to see Mikey go back and get Sabu.
Yeah, it's like Mikey's gotten like the seal of approval from Cactus, Sabu. Didn't even like Terry put him over. Like, it's all these guys that just like this crowd just fucking loves, and they're just putting this guy, like, he got so many guys putting him over.
That's because all these guys weren't going to be there in the long run.
He's got lots of celebrity endorsements, does Mikey Whipwreck.
Yeah, they weren't going to be there. They weren't going to be there in the long haul. You know, that was Paul just saying, "Hey, look, man, just put Mikey over, because Mikey's still going to be here when, you know, your Japanese people call." Or, you know, in any case, yeah, that's tradition. That's fair. That's a cool assessment. But yeah, but
they're putting him over. Yeah, like putting him over without putting him over. You know what I mean? Even in like losing, this guy's getting the fucking endorsement of these guys. It was a good, like, Mikey's an underrated, his character arc and everything's an underrated story in wrestling, I think.
I think he got exactly what he deserved, but that's not a knock on him at all. I think he got it well enough praise. They got him into WCW, and I'm sure he still had a hand in getting other people work, you know, later on in life.
Well, Mikey takes a hell of a fucking total elimination
yes, he does.
For the end of this matchup. I was like, Jesus fucking Christ.
Oh, you know what was funny, Nate, that you said that was because when they were setting him up for it, he was so beat to shit that I thought they were going to have to go to the spot where they had to put the tables together and tape it. Because I didn't think Mikey was going to be able to stand there and take it, much less after he got it. I was like, oh. Yeah, that's a
broken pointer finger.
Yeah, that's a wrap right there, Jackson. He ain't kicking out of this one.
Yeah, then the Eliminators get the victory, and then somebody tell me, please, because obviously it's the WWE Network. We get a video for the Eliminators. Does anybody remember what the original song was for this video?
No, but I know what this one was.
Oh.
The Good Humor Man truck?
Huh?
The Good Humor Man ice cream truck theme song?
Oh, I Shazammed it.
Oh, what was it?
Oh, good.
It's called Where You All Come From.
Oh, well, the guy said it 55 times?
Yeah, but it's a collaboration of a lot of people. There's a guy named it's three brothers Dixon. It's Anchania Dixon, Alton Dixon, Alfie Dixon,
heroin addiction.
Some guy named Jaquan Schwan.
Come on.
No, Jaquan Schwan. I wrote these down.
Butternut pecan Schwan.
And then another guy named Kanye Nelson.
Get
and then this is the one that this is the one that made me laugh the most. Hanson Carson Lindbergh.
It's like all these rappers and then a Jewish guy.
And then like a Jewish guy.
They he had like nappy roots.
You know, he had the Jew-fro.
Along with Evan Ginsberg. Yeah.
Hanson Creston Lindbergh.
Skippy Handelman.
Well, I just looked it up. For posterity. This video, the actual video itself, back in 1996, was set to Fed Up by House of Pain.
I don't even know what that song is now. I like the Evans Ginsberg one. Nappy roots, nappy Jew roots.
You know, when I saw that Lindbergh name, I'm like, that's fucking great.
Yeah, you know
he was obviously that guy was obviously the money guy.
He paid for the studio.
Gary Hart was like, welcome to the studio. This is my Jew.
This is my Jew. Nappy Ginsberg. Dude, that is unbelievable. Somehow that's got to play into the title of this fucking show. Nappy Ginsberg. George Napolitano.
And his first name's like one of the whitest names ever. Hanson. And then, like I said, and then Karsten Lindbergh.
Lindbergh?
Lindbergh. He's going to be the big rapper.
Oh, yeah. He's big in Jerusalem. and his finishing move is the corned beef hash.
He's kosher, biatch.
Yeah. Fuck him. Evans Ginsberg.
Well, here we go. We got Raven.
His finisher is the Jewish Star Press.
That's right. Corned beef stash. I'm sorry, I don't know a whole lot of Jewish delicatessens.
Oy vey.
He does kishkas. Instead of the kippah, he does the kishka. I only know my Jewish delicacies from Seinfeld.
The figure 4 leg locks.
Yeah, pretty much. You got it.
All right. We get some more.
Don't worry. As you go on, there'll be more to come, I'm sure.
Now, speaking of Jews with their voices, Raven's next.
He's got Sandboy and Lori Mann with him.
Yeah, they play big parts. Now, where was this at? This was back in the locker room again, right? Well, I mean, from what they said,
they were outside.
Okay, they were outside on this one, right?
Yeah, they weren't at the park. Like, they're done at the park. They've got kicked out. Like, they're like, you guys got to go.
You got to go.
You've been living here in this pavilion for like a week. We need you to leave.
I'm just trying to figure out, because I'm sure they taped a bunch of these at one time, and I know there was some of them that were backstage. I'm just trying to figure out which ones they insert. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Which ones they inserted where and when.
Maybe this one wasn't outside, if I'm thinking back, because it was a minute ago since we watched it, because we had to delay a couple of times. This one might have been, and obviously I was never in the arena, but you were, because I remember there were steps. So this might have been like on those steps that beyond the mat or whatever. Paul's doing the rock.
No, it was on the other side. It was on the other side. We're between the wall where the locker room was, and on the other side is where they kept all the props. And they had the bay doors back there. It was back there on the other side, because around that back side, that's where the showers were too. And then right, I guess, as you on the same angle as the bathrooms were, there was steps that led upstairs, but at the time they led upstairs to nowhere. I mean, I don't know where it became, or unless it became another way to get to the stage part. But yeah, that's where that was. Because I remember seeing all the wood and crap out, that when and I was like, oh yeah, I knew where that was at. But Raven's been doing promos so many different places, I just forget where he's doing them all at.
The next promo is Joey with Devon Dudley, talking about the family situation with Devon, Big Dick Dudley. And like Aaron said, it's been a while because, Well, it's all my fault, but we didn't record when we were supposed to record. I wrote down Magic Johnson, Michael Jordan, Madonna, but I have no idea what the context of that was.
I think it was all about cheating, right?
Well, I think he made a joke about Magic Johnson having AIDS, and then he was like the Michael Jordan of the Dudleys because he was like the best, and then something about claiming he banged Madonna or something.
No, all right. Well, I guess it didn't matter that much. But yeah, the Dudleys family drama continues. What the fuck is a reverse lumberjack match?
The lumberjacks put the trees up. I guess.
Now, a reverse lumberjack match, as explained by Joey Styles, was usually they're trying to keep the competitors in the ring. This was the lumberjacks trying to keep the competitors or keeping interference out of the ring.
So shouldn't lumberjacks have been in the ring?
Who fucking knows?
The lumberjacks.
It's Bill Alfonso and Todd Gordon.
No, I want to go back to this. Shouldn't the lumberjacks have been? Shouldn't the lumberjacks have been in the ring? And every time the match tried to get into the ring, the lumberjacks threw them back out.
That would make fucking sense if you're gonna call it a reverse lumberjack? There you go. You should have booked this shit.
This is the same promotion that gave us that fucking convoluted shit last week about people starting on the stage and in a cage, and Stevie Richards has defended Tommy Dreamer's belt. They had a human cage.
Hey, what is this? Fucking Tony Khan booking this shit or what?
they got, yeah. This was all done. Clearly, this was all done after this had all happened. In post production. Yeah. That Paul saw all this shit and was like, all right, this is how we're going to get out of this.
Basically, what it was Paul putting a lot of shit going on around Bill Alfonso and fucking Todd the Animal Steel having their fucking match because he knew it was going to be a fucking joke. So he just did a bunch of shit around it. It was attitude style booking. Have a bunch of people involved so you don't see what's going on actually sucks.
Yeah, but
you know what I mean?
But that's part of the appeal of what Todd and Alfonso should have been. Because
I'm not knocking it. I'm just saying the reverse lumberjack thing was stupid. Like you shouldn't have called it that. But
I don't think you would have gotten if they would have did more shit in the ring that would have been just god awful looking. I don't think you would have gotten you fucked up chance or none of that shit. Mm-hmm. Because I think the people there knew that neither one of these two guys had any business. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah.
Like doing anything.
It's like Howard Finkel and Harvey Whippleman, No, this isn't gonna be good.
Yeah, so all Paul was trying to do was throw a couple of smoke bombs there, just and the one fat ass that I kept seeing like all the time, who was basically, I bet you was part of the ringleader of all this, was Axel. He was involved in a lot of this that you don't even know about, and I bet you that he was in charge of calling a lot of this.
Well, he definitely figured into the finish because his bat is what Bill Alfonso uses to beat Todd Gordon in this matchup. Axel Rotten's bat.
Yeah, because I noticed that he happened to be around a couple sides. He was on the hard camera side, which knowing Axel, that was him on purpose, because he was on the hard camera side so you could see him on screen. And then when the brawl broke out, he was in the middle of the aisleway. Because I don't think you ever saw him leave the bat. Maybe I'm wrong. But
I don't think so either.
Yeah, you never saw him leave the bat. It was just alluded to. But he was in the aisleway when all the hell was breaking loose and everything. And I could pretty much tell, knowing Axel, that he was probably like, the ringleader in all this.
Yeah.
Which is not bad because Axel's great at that. And nobody gives Axel enough credit for any of that nonsense.
The next thing on this show made me laugh. Good job, Bill Alfonso. Taz is doing the pretty much the Bob Backlund step test thing. He's constantly training, is Taz. And of course they're alluding to Sabu during this whole thing. But my favorite thing about it is the fact that essentially the story from Bill Alfonso is Taz was training. I went and got a hand job.
Yeah, at the massage parlor.
and then I came back and Taz was still training.
He even asked, he's like, Taz, you want to go? And Taz wouldn't go. He wanted to train. So I had to go
I went to the massage parlor, baby. Got a massage, baby.
I think he also alluded to Taz had been doing that since Tuesday. Like, I don't know when this was taped or when it was, whenever it aired, but I think he made a comment about how Taz has been doing it since Tuesday. Like, Taz has nothing better to do. I'm just going to sit here and step on this piece of wood for 5 days.
But yeah, that shit made me laugh. I was like, I mean, I know he's saying I'm going to the massage parlor, but we all know what he means. He's going to get a handy.
He's getting a tuggy.
Getting a tuggy, daddy.
I don't know why, because like shortly after this is when they cut the promos when you see Jenna Jameson in it. So maybe he could even get Jenna Jameson. Oh, I'm sure Alfonso got his piece of that pie.
Who didn't?
Me.
New Jack cuts his promo on Jim Cornette and Smoky Mountain Wrestling.
Why? Over $100?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what it was.
I did like the fact that he said, "Give us our money, Jim Cornette, you pimp."
It was over $100. I mean, couldn't they have lied about it at least and made up a viable
$5,000?
No, if you would have said $1,200, just say that's what they were making. Just say like a week's worth, or something like that. But he said like $100. I'm like, what? You're New Jack. You're gonna bitch about some guy owing you $100 from years ago? You're an idiot.
I also wrote down during Pulp Fiction. I wrote down there's Stevie Richards and Blue Dust nonsense that I don't care about.
Yeah, that's because they were probably at the studio or just to have it just for this in case Paul needed time.
It was just Raven making himself laugh. Making these two goofs do some shit.
There's no doubt that Raven was somewhere in the back or somewhere right near there. He was chuckling in his own little world, smiling because he was getting these two idiots to say whatever he wanted them to say.
Yeah, neither one of these guys came up with any of that shit. Neither one of them were like, "Oh, let's be the Blue Bloods," or fucking.
No, there's no chance.
Even Von Stevie, this is all fucking Raven just making himself laugh.
It's Raven popping himself.
Yeah.
I mean, I know Raven I don't know him as good anymore as Stevie did for a while, but yeah, I spent a lot of time with Raven. and I knew how to pop Raven, and it was anything that was terrible. and Raven loves that kind of crap, and he always would find a way to bring something back like that just to pop himself. Which it's okay. I mean, because not everybody got it, but not everybody probably hated it either.
The only other thing I wrote down from Pulp Fiction was Shane Douglas talks about wanting the TV title. And then we get the final segment of the show, which I actually really liked this. And that's why I say, like, this show kind of convinced me. I wish maybe the Samoan Gangsta Party would have been a part of ECW longer. The gangsters are cutting their promo. There's a car honking behind them. Obviously, they don't realize that it's the Samoans in the car. They get out. They attack the gangsters, get their heat back. They even put Mustafa under the back of the car and act like Rosie is going to back up over Mustafa's head. And I was like, this is cool. This is intense. I really liked the end of the show. I really liked this segment.
That's where I was going to say that we were talking about, like, joking about the names and the pajamas and all that. I think if they would have stuck around, they would have probably gotten more away from that and moved more into like something a little, like looking a little more serious. You know what I mean?
Yeah, because I thought this was.
Never
I thought the
happened.
end. I thought the end of this show with this segment. This is really fucking effective.
Yeah, it's funny because I think I know whose car that was too.
Howard Finkel's.
No. I mean, he was actually. It's funny because he was actually in the ECW show from last night on Biography. You only showed him in the back when they were showing a locker room scene. Because I texted my buddy, he's my buddy Damien, he's dead now, but I texted my buddy Brian and was like, "Hey, did you see Damien's car on the show?" And he was like, "Yeah." I said he was on the show, but that was my buddy Damien's car.
Okay.
He was a guy who did like a lot of like non-TV shit. Like he'd pick guys up from the airport or he'd drive guys. And he was really good friends with Shane.
Okay.
So Shane would always throw him a bone in that aspect where I don't know how much money was going transferring around, but yeah, Damien was always around backstage and he would run to the airport, pick people up, that kind of shit. Good guy. It's always funny when you see stuff like that on the show and most people don't know, what it is. But then you kind of smile and be like, "Oh, that's funny." They it's subtle, but yeah, it was cool.
Yeah. So overall, I actually gave this episode of ECW TV. I gave this episode a B, just a flat B. I thought it was decent. There was good action. It wasn't as good as last week. Last week, I don't know. Like, there's some weeks where the ECW chaos gets on my nerves sometimes, and then there's other times, like last week, where it really fucking works. But this week, it was by no means a bad episode. It was just a little more, a little more laid back than last week. So
it's one of those shows that I've said it before, where it's one of those shows that's kind of a placeholder. Not a lot happened, but they just got a couple angles over and went with it, Like we didn't get any really like Raven Tommy stuff or whatever. It was just their
dude.
I don't want to say their
how long we were going to go on this show before you finally said that? Because I had wrote that down, going, how long are we going to go before Aaron says finally, no Tommy Dreamer?
Well, I mean, I'm not saying like just that like the show's a bust because Tommy's not on it.
No, it was great because Tommy wasn't on it.
Well, I know. I'm just saying, like,
that's what I was fishing for.
Well, I'm just saying, like that. Like, say what you want to say about him, but that's the main angle in the show. Well, and Sandman too, but like they just kind of got over their tag team thing that's going on a little bit, and it was just kind of just a show. It didn't advance anything, but it didn't really enhance anything either. You know what I'm saying? Like it just kind of was there.
Yeah, we probably didn't have anything that we were really building to except for the 4-way. So it got people that necessarily weren't even thought about, like the gangster pajama party. They got them a little more elevated into that. But yeah, it was basically just a show that was just like you said, it was going to carry us over until we get to the go home show, which is that next week, or was that it?
I think this might be the go home show.
Well, it wasn't that great of a go home show then.
But it also did something I do like in like a wrestling show to do, though. It bookended it. Like at the beginning of the show, the gangsta party got their asses handed to them. It got laid out, but by the end of the show, they laid out the gangsters. You know what I mean? So I do like when a show bookends itself.
Yeah, that's always cool. It's always good to see that there's some kind of consistency there. Yeah, I think a B is I mean, the only thing that held me down from making it like a solid B was it was only Mikey and Paul, but you had to have at least a match on the show, I guess.
Yeah. Well, I want to let all of our listeners know before we sign off. If you listen to the show if you like to listen to your podcast on YouTube, every Reliving the Extreme episode is now on YouTube. And going forward, the show, it will not be a delay. There will not be a delay. When the show hits podcast platforms, it will also hit YouTube. So check that out. The WNR Podcast Network on YouTube. Reliving the Extreme is there, as is every episode of the We Can't Wrestle podcast. So
that
is now taken care of. That is now done. Other than that, guys, you got any parting words for our listeners this week?
No, just wish me luck on my future endeavors. And anybody who's listening here who's in the Maryville, Tennessee area, come out next Friday night. It'll be the Friday night after this show airs, and come see me return to the ring. Oof.
Is that Friday night the 21st or Friday night the 28th?
Oh no, I'm sorry. It's Saturday the 22nd. I'm sorry.
Saturday. Okay, this Saturday the 22nd. Gotcha.
Yes, I'll be returning to the ring, and that's when I start working for a new company where I start helping like book and helping out talent and starting at the school. I believe it's called it's either East Tennessee Championship Wrestling.
Well, make sure that you send me, or you can do it yourself or whatever, but send me the shit for that for the Facebook, and we'll definitely put that out there too.
Okay.
All right, everybody. Aaron, quickly, anything else? Because I got to pee.
Just thanks for listening, guys. Appreciate it.
All right. Thank you, everybody, for joining us on Reliving the Extreme, and we will see you next week. Have a great week, everybody.